Clemson is 8-4, and they will look for their 9th win in the Gator Bowl against Kentucky on the 29th. We also have National Signing Day on Wednesday, December 20th. But even with those two events coming up, it's hard for me not to look ahead to next year as Clemson's closing out a decent, strong finish kind of season, potentially a 9-win season, which is nothing to turn your nose up at. But next season could be much more. And with that, I'm already looking ahead. In this video, I'm going to be looking at the defense position by position. Where will there be strengths, potential weaknesses? How's all that going to shape up? It's a little early, but it's hard for me not to look ahead. So let's have some fun with it. All right. So right now I have 83 players currently on Clemson's projected roster for next season. I think you probably see maybe about 2 more guys go. And then with uncommitted players and maybe a transfer portal addition, I think you'll see about 2 more players leave, 4 more players take their spots for an 85-man roster. And then, you perhaps have some guys leave in the spring and maybe they get replaced by walk-ons. But that's where it's at right now. And on defense, let's start at defensive tackle. This has been a really strong spot for Clemson over the years. And with Coach Nick Eason, I think it looks like it could stay a strong spot for a long time. They're going to lose both starters, Tyler Davis, who had an 85.5 PFF grade, and Rukaroro, who's also very good. That's tough to replace. Luckily, Peter Woods lived up to the hype. He was outstanding as a true freshman with an 84.9 PFF grade. Now he'll be a sophomore, and I think he'll be the star on this defense next year. I mean, Barrett Carter too, but I think Peter Woods may very well be the big name and probably the best player on this defense next year as a true sophomore. Alongside him, DeMonte Capehart, he only had 159 snaps, but he looked good in them, and he looked good especially late in the year. I think he has a good shot to start. And luckily, it's not just those two. There's some depth behind him, not necessarily as much as years past. But Peyton Page was very effective across 215 snaps. Trey Williams is continually limited in terms of playing time by injuries, but whenever we see him, he's good. So hopefully he can be healthy. And then beyond them, you got a lot of unproven guys, but a lot of guys with a lot of potential, highly rated guys: Caden Story, Stephylan Green, Vic Burley, Heaven Brown Schuler, and Champ Thompson, the last two coming in on this class. I'm really high on Heaven Brown Schuler. So 9 guys on scholarship. That's a lot of scholarships to dedicate to the spot. I would say the star power in this position for Clemson, A+. I mean, especially with Peter Woods, that's an A+. Depth is good, but not as good as an A+, probably an A-. Then we go to defensive end, so the other part of the D-line, and they also lose both starters at defensive end. So the entire defensive line is getting turned over, all 4 starters, that is. But this is the second year in a row that both defensive tackles are departing. So it's really cutting into the depth here. And like defensive tackle, defensive end, at least historically, has been a really, really strong position for Clemson. Just over the years, from Gaines Adams to Quan Bowers, Vic Beasley, Austin Bryant, Cleveland Ferrell. So some great defensive ends at Clemson, over the years in the Sweeney era and the Bowden era and even before that. But last couple of years, it started to drop off a little bit. I mean, Miles Murphy was very, very good, but he came in, had a great year as a freshman, and basically, his PFF grades are flat. They actually go slightly down, but he was good. But we thought he was going to become one of those guys, like a DeQuan Bowers name that everyone knows. And he was a first-round draft pick, he was a good player, but he didn't become a Clemson legend. Other guys, Xavier Thomas, very, 5-star guy, comes in. He was there for 6 years because of a lot of injuries. He was good. He had a good 6th year this past season at Clemson. It was good. Not a legend, right? You look at KJ Henry. He was a big 5-star. Took him until his redshirt senior year to really break out. And he was great that last year, but 4 years before that, or at least 3.5 years before that, wasn't much of a contributor. So we're seeing slower development or not as much development lately. Now, luckily with Chris Rumpf coming in, I'm really optimistic about that possibly changing. They bring back TJ Parker, who's the best defensive end per PFF grade and I think per most people's eye test last season. So he's back, but beyond him, there could be, and I say there could be some major depth concerns. David Ojigbe transferred. Kay Denhoff and AJ Hoffler both had pretty low PFF grades. Denhoff playing more and scoring a little bit better there, but I don't know that you'd feel super comfortable with either of them as your starter next season. Jaheim Lawson, he only had 37 snaps, was a guy that I was not super high on when they took him, and they haven't really entrusted him with a whole lot of opportunity, especially in big spots. Zaire Patterson only saw 14 snaps. I would have guessed he might transfer because it seems like he's really falling on the depth chart, but so far he has not. So pretty thin there. They have 7 total scholarships given to defensive ends as of December 18th. Star power here, I give it a B+, but depth, I think I give it an F. This is a real concern, and they've talked a lot about the transfer portal for offensive linemen, but I think defensive end may be the biggest point or biggest area of need. And maybe it's because they're going to land a big-time impact freshman who could do what TJ Parker did. TJ Parker comes back as a sophomore. You find some freshman who's not yet committed, and those two end up being your guys. Maybe not a Peter Woods type impact, but something akin to what TJ Parker did this past season. So maybe that's in the works, or maybe that'll pass and they'll get a transfer. I don't think the 7 guys that go in to have today, or they will have, that are signed right now for next season, I don't think that's it. It doesn't make sense to me. I think there's something more coming. So keep your eye out there. I expect good news there to solve this problem. Hey, if you're not already subscribed, I want to remind you, please subscribe to this channel. It really helps it grow. Thank you to the over 700 people who've already subscribed. That I really appreciate it. That's awesome. And it's been a lot of fun. Be sure to comment as well. I've enjoyed conversing with folks in the comments, try to respond to all of them. And if you already have subscribed, please like this video. All right, let's keep going with linebacker. So at linebacker, they lose Jeremiah Trotter. He and Tyler Davis had the highest PFF grade on the defense at 85.5. So that's a big loss to lose both of them. But Trotter was awesome, and I think he was a little banged up early in the year, and he was just outstanding in the second half of the year. Luckily, very, very luckily, Barrett Carter is coming back for a senior season. He had kind of a down year, but he's so athletic. There was a good shot that he kind of could do the Trenton Simpson path, where Trent Simpson was better as a sophomore than a junior, but he's so darn athletic that it sort of didn't matter, and he was still, first half of the draft guy, and he went right. But Carter wants to leave more of a legacy. He wants to be, more than a third rounder, early second, maybe a first round draft pick. And I think that's possible for him. It's tough for linebackers to get drafted that high, but I think his potential is there. When he's good, he is great. So because he came back, Clemson's okay at linebacker. It seemed like it would be a real need, but thankfully he's back. So you have Barrett Carter, you have Wade Woodaz, and then you have Sammy Brown coming in, true freshman, linebacker of the year out of high school. He's from Georgia, and I think those 3 give you some real star power. And then Khalil Barnes, who's really a safety, but played a lot of nickel and can certainly do it well. Between those 4, you've got some good players there at linebacker. Now, I've counted Khalil Barnes as a safety in terms of just counting players, but there's seven linebackers on scholarship or projected to be on scholarship. The others being Kobe McLeod, who had 69 snaps, D. Creighton, who had 59, Jamal Anderson, who had 48. At least 1 or 2 of those guys will have to step up and provide more depth there. But I think Clemson's actually in a better spot than we might have expected, thanks to Barrett Carter returning. With Carter and Woodaz and even Sammy Brown, there's some star power here. I give the star power an A+. Depth maybe a little thinner, but still pretty good. I give it a B+. So pretty good spot there, actually, at linebacker. And then at cornerback, they're losing a lot at cornerback. Nate Wiggins, Sheridan Jones, both leaving, and then Toriano Pride going to the transfer portal, going back home to Missouri. Can't really fault him for going home to Missouri, where I assume he's going to start after he got passed by actually quite a few guys at Clemson. Luckily, Clemson has Mike Reed. He is, I haven't compared him to like all the other cornerback coaches, but he's got to be, if not the best, one of the top couple. He has been outstanding. Clemson, for all the talk about wide receiver U and how great they are in the defensive tackle position and the defensive line, I think it's cornerback U at Clemson. Avion Terrell, true freshman, played 320 snaps. He was great. He's one of the guys who passed Pride and really passed Jaden Lucas too. And then Shelton Lewis, he didn't play a ton of snaps, but the snaps he played, he was excellent. Really from the spring game all the way to the Palmetto Bowl, he's been excellent. I think those 2 plus Jaden Lucas, who battled some injuries, I think if he can get healthy, I think those 3 could give you a really strong trio. And then beyond that, you might have the little depth issues, but I think there's some guys who could step up and give them depth beyond those 3. True freshman Corian Gibson is a guy I'm high on, coming in from Texas, big, highly rated 4-star player. So he could potentially come in just like Shelton Lewis and Avion Terrell and make an impact. And then Brandon Strozer only played 7 snaps. Miles Oliver from a couple classes ago, another guy I wasn't really high on when they took him, but he's been in the program a little while. Maybe he gets healthy. I know he's battled injuries. If he can get healthy, maybe he or Strozer could kind of be that next guy and give them additional depth. So seven cornerbacks on scholarship projected for next year. Star power, I give it an A, and depth maybe a little bit behind, but I still give it a B. I think they're going to be fine at cornerback. And then safety, and again, I've counted Khalil Barnes here as a safety, and I have not counted R.J. Mickens. I am, for purposes of this video at least, R.J. Mickens, it sounds like he's going to leave or go either portal or NFL. I don't know. Maybe he'll come back. But for the sake of discussion, I'm assuming he's leaving. So that means they're replacing him, Andrew Mukuba, and Jalyn Phillips all in the same offseason. That's tough. That's really tough. Thankfully, this 2023 class has hit on a lot of spots, and safety being two of the biggest ones. Khalil Barnes had an 83.9 PFF grade. Kylon Green didn't play a ton of snaps, but a 77.6 PFF grade. Both had their share of interceptions. Both are good players. They're going to vie for big-time playing time, maybe even as starters. You got Sherrod Koval. He tore his ACL, but if he can come back healthy, he'll be a big contributor. Tyler Venables has battled all sorts of injuries. I think this one was a hip that caused him to miss this year on redshirt. So he'll come back, I guess, as a fifth-year guy, and he'll still have that sixth year in his back pocket if he wants it. But he'll also provide more depth. He hasn't been awesome in the past, but I think he's also been limited by injuries. I think if he's healthy, he could be a great depth guy, maybe a Nolan Turner light even, which would be awesome. So you have Sherrod Koval, you have Tyler Venables, and then two guys who redshirted this year, Kylan Webb and Rob Billings. And then Ricardo Jones, incoming freshman, is another guy I'm high on as a recruit. Just really talented, already 200 pounds. So I think they'll be okay there. The depth is a little bit lacking, so I give the depth only a C+, despite having 9 guys on scholarship. That's also considering that Khalil Barnes could play some linebacker or nickel. But the star power is good. I give it an A- because, frankly, Khalil Barnes is kind of becoming a star, and I think Kylan Griffin could. So I think I think safety is in a good position. And generally speaking, this defense in general, right, they're losing a lot. I mean, they're losing a ton of talent this offseason. But for all the misses that the classes, 19, 20, 21, kind of the ones around COVID, 19 and then 20 and past couple, there's been some misses. I have to go back and look at it and really evaluate the hit rate, but it definitely hasn't seemed quite as good as where they were, let's say pre-2018 championship. But this 2023 class, oh my goodness, this is one of the best classes. I don't recall seeing a freshman class make such a big impact so quickly. And I think a lot of these guys are going to be the stars on this defense as true sophomores next season. You look at Peter Woods, TJ Parker, Avion Terrell, Sheldon Lewis, Kylan Griffin, Khalil Barnes. I mean, those are a ton of guys, and all of them could be vying for starter snaps, which is insane. And on top of that, Sammy Brown coming in as a true freshman to contribute, Corey and Gibson coming in, and Ricardo Jones, all guys who contribute as true freshmen. So it's going to be a young defense and it'll have its growing pains, maybe even regress, particularly early in the year. But I don't think this defense is going to have a huge drop-off. Obviously, it's the offense that's been the issue since 2021, right? So that's where they're going to need to improve. But I think the defense will hold steady, or at least steady enough that if the offense could take the strides that it's supposed to, Clemson could be very good and could be a playoff team next year. Before I get out of here, I want to say thank you to a couple people. Thank you to Tiger Pride for giving a $50 gift via Venmo. I really appreciate that. I do this for fun, but it's nice to see that people are enjoying it and appreciate it. So thank you. And also thank you to Brandon Moose for giving some suggestions about this outro video, which I'll hit now, and you'll see the difference. Hopefully it's not as loud for some of you who've been getting blasted by it. So again, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like this video and be sure to subscribe, and go Tigers.